So I'm gonna tell you that the most important theme I'm going to tell you today is the next slide. It's the next slide. Sorry, that's another deck. Oh, I think we're going backwards. Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's it. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you again to April for putting this together. April is one of the most fearless leaders I've ever met. And if you don't know her, I'll let her tell you about her cold plunge in Antarctica. I do not like cold showers. So this is an inspiration to me every day. And I want also to shout out to Julie Gomez, our first speaker, who was very inspirational. And Julie has been responsible for sustaining, growing, and making my business fabulous, but first as a teammate and then a colleague and advisor. And I've had the extraordinary privilege of being able to be a sacred witness to her journey. So I just want to say a shout out to Julie again on multidimensional skills this woman has. And also, I wanted to thank people who made this space possible. The people that made the technology work and the lights go on and the safety in the building. And I want to say a thank you to them because they're often invisible in our journey, but they have the power to create to shape the quality of our experience. The invisible support creates the quality of our experience. And so I just want everybody to give them a round of applause, if they're in the room or not in the room. Maybe they'll feel that. And I want to say, isn't it interesting? It turns out that this is true both inside you as these people do, that the map inside of you, there's an invisible map of reality inside of you that shapes all the reality around which you think you have control. And you've heard it up here for all of the speakers. They've all said, well, I tried to do this, but I had this belief. Did you hear Amanda say, I always thought that I was number 2. Never dawned on me to think I was a CEO. So what is she doing? Making choices out of that belief system. So your invisible map of reality contains all of the things, your personality, all the things that have ever happened for you, the legacy that you inherited, the neighborhood that you live in, the family that you have. It's all resident in that map of reality that you have. And also contained in that is your creative purpose. And your creative purpose has your gifts and your fears all there in that map of reality inside of you. So the most important thing that we can do, both with the people who make all this possible in the room, as well as with your inner world, is to have consistent, respectful, ongoing communication. Because if you don't have ongoing communication, I was thinking about how much power these guys have, and I thought, well, they got into the middle of my talk and said, you know, she's kind of boring. Let's just turn the lights off, see what happens. How will they respond to that? You know, or let's make the PowerPoint not work, because they can. But they care that everyone here hears a message and hears it clearly. And they're invested in that. They're integral in their work. So is the map inside of us. And so I want to talk a little bit today about intuition. So I was one of 11 children, third oldest, one wannabe. So my older sister was like, why would I ever want to be responsible? I'm a kid. And I was like, okay. Well, then my older brother, he was sick when he was younger. I had to talk for him because he didn't talk till he was 5. And so there I was. And so I learned a whole lot about partnering with mom and dad, who were the leaders of our company. And every year, our company grew. There's another kid that came along every single year. I'm telling you. So there's 10 of us in 12 years with one miscarriage, and then 8 years later, there's a caboose. So we don't know where he came from. But so in any given decade, there's 9 of us in the same decade. So I was born in a sardine can, and trying to find space and to find my truth, I had to learn that at a very young age. And one of the ways I did that was I asked my mother if I could attend Mass with her. You know, if you have 10 brothers and sisters, you're either Mormon or Catholic, right? We're Catholic. So I would say to my mother, who went to Mass every day, can I go with you? And I was only 6 years old. She said, yes, you can. So I would go to Mass with her. And even when I was 6 years old, and I want to know if this has happened for any of you, you go to some place and you think, boy, this feels familiar. Have ever, any of you been somewhere, done something when you're young? How many of you have had that experience where you walk into something and you're like, wait a second, there's no reason why I should feel this familiarity with this place, but it feels right, it feels familiar. That's how I felt at church. I would look at that priest and think, I know how to do what he does. I was 6. I was 6 years old. I know how to do what he does. And by the time I was 8 years old, I was thinking, the priest missed the point on that. He could have inspired all these people. I just wish somebody would help him out with that. So, sometimes you're just born with something going on in you, and you just can't help it. So, it took me till I was 13 to realize when they said to me, well, you can't be a priest because you're a girl. I was like, what? No. That guy wearing the dress over there, he's not a priest because he's just doing a job. I'm a priest because this whole thing makes sense to me. No, you can't be that. So, okay. So starting from a very young age, I was sort of on that path of what is this thing that holds our attention, that draws us into it, that's different from maybe anybody around us. That's going to start shaping our life whether or not we plan to do it. That's going to shape our lives. It's going to be a through line. So that through line for me came in the form of mystic experiences, I'll call them. I've even spoken at near-death experience conferences because the experiences I had at church were like near-death experience, except I was alive. So, but for many of you and people from whatever religions or spiritual traditions people come from, you often have a luminous experience, one where you're caught up and you feel the light and you think, I'm in this place that all I know is joy, or all I know is that this is a place of peace. And it transcends all of the everyday stuff that's going on, which was good for me because with 10 brothers and sisters, I really wanted to transcend that a lot. And so I got to because I was regularly in that place whenever I would go to church. And I learned things like, look through what you're looking at, don't believe what you see, look into the meaning, trust without evidence, go inside to find the truth, and move the noise out of the way. And again, with 13 people in a family, moving the noise out of the way, I got really good at that over a long time, but when I was really young. So I practiced this all my life, and I learned a lot about intuition. So I also had this I had a very crazy desire to be in business. I love business. I think business is intellectually breathtaking. I love complex problems. But I have this other side of me that's deeply spiritual. And it was always like, well, I couldn't be a priest because I'm a girl. Then I go into business, and they were like, well, you can't bring that stuff in here. So then I was a little confused. So I did a circuitous path. And what was really interesting is I got to practice management consulting skills. I was in a big 6 consulting firm. I got an MBA from Kellogg. I got a PhD in business and transformation. Because I started to think, first it was, how can you take an organization and the spirit of an organization, and how can you actually transform it so that it's more inclusive, so that it allows the gifts of the people there to contribute what they want to contribute, and then you can create richer outcomes. So first it was management consulting, and then I went into a discipline called change management. And change management is that discipline that helps you to this is invisible, right? I'm talking about invisible stuff here. Everything I've ever done is invisible. But like, what have you done? Nothing. It's invisible. I'm sorry, I have nothing to show for my life here, and it's a long life. But it's basically, how do you help someone who's a leader increase their capacity to lead by helping them to find out what's inside of them and elucidating the map of reality that's inside of them that shows where there's gifts and where there's fears. And how can you help them understand what those fears are? Because I'll tell you what, as opposed to running away from fear, if you look it in the face and stay with it and befriend it, underneath it is a strength that you will use that's part of your creative purpose, especially if it's a persistent challenge. Has anybody ever had the experience where no matter what, you always, like you have studied this, you've done all you can, you get to this place and it doesn't work? Could be a relationship, could be a kind of work you want to do, and it just doesn't work, but it keeps not working persistently, no matter what you do. That's part of your creative purpose. That's a persistent challenge that represents a little piece of what you're here to do. So, I'm going to talk about this. Okay, can we go back a slide? It's a little bit early here. I'm going to ask you, we're going to talk a little bit about intuition and how that accesses that map of reality. So here's a question. How many of you have had an experience where you're walking along the street and all of a sudden you just have this feeling of threat or danger? You didn't see anyone, but you feel, and you walk to the other side of the street. Anybody's ever had that experience? Or let's say that you don't, maybe you're a private person, you don't talk to the person next to you on the plane or on the train, but you know, you have this idea that maybe you're going to strike up a conversation with them. Or you're going to go to an event that you weren't planning to go to, but you have this urge, you're going to go. And you end up meeting somebody that's important in your life or in your work. That kind of, yeah, you've had that happen, right? You haven't had it happen yet. Wait, you're young. So it'll come. So there's a few reasons why we have our intuition. So the first reason is our safety on the journey. Anybody ever have that experience of don't take that plane, don't take that train? You get off. Those people in 9/11, there's 100 stories of them. I was supposed to go to work that day, and I had a feeling not to do it. I thought, I'm not going to do it, and it saved my life. Your intuition is here to keep you safe on the journey if it's not your time, right? If it's your time, maybe not. Then wisdom for optimal decision making. There's this one CEO that I worked with, and he said, my team came up with the best fit candidate for this position. Hands down, the best candidate. And I did too. I believe that guy was the best guy. He said, but I kept feeling like I got to take the other guy, even though he was a little bit like way down the line. He said, I just kept feeling I got to take him. And he said, it was a gut feel, but I had no evidence. I was so frustrated. I couldn't tell my team, hey, this is why I chose this guy or why I think we should do it. He said, but much to their chagrin and mine, I took the second guy. 1 month later, he finds out that the guy who he was going to pick, that everybody wanted for the job, had something happen in his family, had to leave the country and take care of that family member for the next year, and would not have been able to fulfill those job functions. Where did he get that information? If you put that into an AI algorithm, I'm telling you, they would have made the wrong choice. See? I just wrote an article on LinkedIn, and the idea between artificial intelligence and what I call advanced intuitive insight, which is AII and AI. And there are, I can tell you, lots of ways that AI, or AII beats AI every time. So that's the second way. And then the third thing is to support your creative purpose. So anybody have a definition of purpose? People say that all the time, but you think about it, what is it? What's our purpose? What does that mean even? Yeah. Aligned with the higher being. Do we know what that is? Yeah, somebody else? You know that specifically, like, yeah. The way we're meant to exchange energy. Okay, great. And anybody else? The experiences that lead you to where you're supposed to be. I love that. Yeah. What is the purpose? Why are we here? What's the purpose of our life? Absolutely. And so I'm going to give you an extreme example because I've done about 12,000 readings, intuitive readings and healings for people around the world. Most of them are professionals or CEOs, and I help them to align their inner world with their outer work and their work on their strategic direction, especially on building conscious cultures. And I also work with individuals on a spiritual path and sometimes parents who have intuitively gifted children. And I'll speak to that in a moment. But when we talk about creative purpose, we're talking about all the things that you said. But let's take, for example, Nelson Mandela. We all know that. Amazing man. First president. He was a lawyer. He was a rebel. He was the first president of South Africa. He was the first black president. He was the first black leader of that area. So when you think about what was his purpose, what would you say? He also, by the way, was given credit for dismantling apartheid. That's a nice resume, okay? Isn't that a nice one? That's a nice resume. I'd like that resume. What would you say his purpose was? Those are his truth. What else? What is it? Peace, truth, freedom, help the people. And you guys are wiser than most people in crowds. When I ask this, usually people say, to become the president, you know, to become the first person to do this, which is the accomplishment, right? But you're absolutely right. All of you are absolutely right. He was really here his whole purpose was about forgiveness. He taught us forgiveness. How did he do that? Well, apartheid was dismantled through reconciliation and the way he taught reconciliation. So that's a nice thing to teach, but you cannot talk about a creative purpose unless you have done a lot of things that have hard-earned your right to teach it, that you embody it. So 27 years in prison, he was thrown into a grave by one of the guards. He had to dig his own grave, lay down in it. He thought he was going to be buried alive. Thought that was the last part. This guard urinated on him, then tortured him a little bit, didn't kill him. So this went on and on, all right? He had to figure out that he was determined, what am I going to do about this? I'm going to forgive this guy. I get upset when someone is in my parking space just like this much. And that's what he was, and I have a hard time forgiving that neighbor. This is what he was forgiving, okay? So given the kind of courage it took for him to get to a place of forgiveness, he had then the right to teach it because his energy will presence the substance of what he's teaching, right? So this is the difference between if you get somebody to teach you Tai Chi and they teach you all the moves and it's beautiful and you can do it, you'll learn Tai Chi and you'll learn all the moves. If you get a master from China to teach you what that is, you will learn from that master's presence because his energy has done that every day for 40 years. Now, he's not just teaching you a technique, or she, but teaching you how you are, the orientation, what it feels like, what the energy's like, and it's a much richer teaching. That's purpose. So our purpose is how we're here to do what we're doing, and what we do with that is up to us. That's our free will. We could be the president of something, or we could not. But what are we doing with what that quality is we came to learn? So we come to learn about love through different qualities. Sometimes, and being a human being, we learn through contrast of love and fear and unity and separation. We're learning by contrast. So that's why if you're learning about independence, you might have to fight through dependence to get to that place where you've hard-earned your independence so that you can share it and teach it with others. Now you're talking purpose. But if you don't bring your bravery to the table, it's not part of your purpose. It's just a teaching. It's just something you can share. It's a gift maybe, but it's not your purpose. So let me ask you some more questions about, can we get the, yeah, thanks. So power is about knowing you have this invisible map and committing to that ongoing effective conversation with yourself through your intuition, which creates optimal outcomes for decisions, like we saw with that CEO, and it really fulfills your creative purpose. Now, to access your inner guidance, we have to start with this question: how do you know what you know? That's a very important question for everybody. Why? Because your map of reality is unique. Nobody has ever had your map of reality ever, and nor will they ever again. You are the only one that can contribute what you came to contribute. That's why it's so important to know this is your power and claim it and express it as you will. I mean, just the fact that I do this sort of thing in business is a little, you know. So and I have to give the generations of millennial and past finally don't run screaming from the room when I start talking about intuition and all of this. You guys are going like, well, yes, and, of course, right? And my generation, they've been run screaming from the room like, oh my God. So I want to thank you all for that, and I want to say keep doing it, and I want to say, how do you know what you know? So here's what we're going to do, a little exercise. I want you to think about a time when you knew something, whether it was somebody was going to call, and they did, or you knew someone was sick and nobody told you, or you knew not to get on a plane or train because you had that feeling, or whatever it is. I just want you to raise your hand if you can think of something like that had no evidence or was against the evidence that you had, but you were right. Can anybody think of that? Take a moment. Because I'm going to ask you to do something with that in just a moment. Because I'm going to ask you to discover for yourself how you know what you know. So, all right. So if people have any kind of time in your life where you had some sort of prompt from the inside that caused you to take action that might not have been what other people would have done or didn't have evidence and you were right, I want you to richly remember that experience. If you want to close your eyes, you can. Sometimes that's easier for people. Other times, just can remember it. I want you to know, how did you know that? Did you see an image? Did you have a dream? Did you hear a voice say, don't get on that plane, don't do that? Or did you feel a feeling like, oh, this feels threatening or scary, or I'm getting chills or goosebumps, or I'm cold, or did maybe even you have this feeling that, I know this, and people say, well, here's the evidence against that. You go, I don't care, I know this, I know this. So those are some ways you might know what you know. So I'm going to ask you, how many people saw images that made you know what you knew in that moment? How many people saw an image or had a dream or was, yeah. How many people hear words? You heard words, hear words regularly. And how many people had a feeling? You just can have a feeling and you don't know what it is, but feeling's big. Okay? And how many people just knew? Ever have that instance where people go, here's the evidence, and you're like, I don't care. I know. They're like, you're kind of confident, but you are, right? Well, those are 4 ways of knowing. And you have a strength and a preference for your intuition that has to do with the way that you know what you know. Okay, so that first one is called, oh, this was supposed to be animated, but okay. I think this is the wrong. Sorry. So the first, you don't have to read that whole slide, but that first one is called clairvoyance. That's seeing in neutrality. A lot of people think the word clairvoyance means crazy, but it actually means clear seeing. And it means that you can see the truth through your third eye. And people, I'm working with kids right now, so many kids. Here's what's happening in the world. You have an unprecedented amount of stimuli going on in the world with an unprecedented amount of technology that allows you to see that and experience it. You have an unprecedented amount of radiation rolling through your lives, your bodies, and your environments. 5G, 10G, 2G, never on the planet before. And when you open your laptop and you go, what are the available networks that I want to connect to? Every single network you see is putting radiation through your body, or you wouldn't be able to see it. We are an experiment. Human beings are an experiment. Never before in history have we had this. So you have different ways of knowing, but if you don't exercise them at this time in history, you won't be able to find the clarity for that effective communication within, right? So you have to find that, first of all, identify what's your strength and preference in your gifts, and then grow that by practicing it. And we'll talk about that, and I'll do an exercise in just a moment. But this is what happens. When you have all that coming in at you in history, right, biggest load of stimuli in history, and then you have these, what I call receptor sites and processing sites. What are you doing when you know that there's someone behind you that feels dangerous? Or you're introduced to someone and they're smiling and you're thinking, oh, this person is not good for me. Did you ever have that happen? This does not feel good, even though they're smiling and they're nice people. But you get a sense, right? So you have these receptor sites. They're taking in invisible information that's not there in front of you. There's no evidence, and you're processing it. So you have a processing capacity. When you're under 26 years old, your processing capacity is lower than when you're over 26 years old and your frontal lobe, cerebral cortex starts to get developed. So here's what's happening. Let's get kids who are now more sensitive than any in history and give them more stimuli than they've ever had in history and have smaller processing capacities and have them try to figure out what this is all about. And the expression of all this is a little ugly. We call it ADD, ADHD, depression, anxiety. But what if we knew these receptor sites and we could have agency for them? What if we could develop them so that we can say, I'm going to take in less of that. I have a gift. Working with a kid now who's 11. I have a gift. My third eye's wide open. I'm seeing everything at the same time and everything is urgent. I can't process it. Oh, guess what that's called? Behavior problems. And what's the answer to that? Usually, it's medication. What does medication do? It doesn't change any of this process. It only changes your awareness of it, just like aspirin. It just changes the fact that all the stimuli is coming in and you don't know it, but it's still coming in. So you can't develop unless you know that you have these capacities. So your first one is seeing in neutrality. And when you see images, and that's how you get your information, that means that that's one of your gifts. That's one of the ways you process invisible information that helps you to create safety on your journey, optimal decision making, and it helps your creative purpose. It gives you the boost for your creative purpose. Second is clairaudience. And some of you said that you heard voices. And that doesn't mean you're crazy. That means you hear voices. I'm mostly clairaudient. The word means clear hearing. And I have clients, let's say, all over the world. So someone from Dubai might call me and say, this is my name. I can do a reading with just someone's name. They say their name, and I can say to them, your name sounds like jewels, jewelry. And they say, that's what it means in my language. Because I can hear the intent on the imprint of that sound on someone. And so, but normally what it would be is someone's talking to you and they're having a conversation. And if you're clairaudient, they might say this and that, and you look at them and say, I think you said that you really want this house and it's important to you. And they didn't say that, but that's what you heard because you're hearing the truth behind their words. And you can filter that out. And then finally, this is more popular than ever here, clairsentience. A lot of people said that they were empathic. How many of you walk in a room and you already know, like, everybody's smiling and you're going, this is not a happy room. There's tension in this room. I can see if those of you that have that gift. That, I'm so sorry, because in this day and age, that's not an easy gift to have. And the challenge of that gift is healthy boundaries. Why? Because if my sadness feels like your sadness, how do I know that's yours and not mine? So I'm going to start feeling your sadness, and then what happens? I start to feel overwhelmed. As soon as you start to feel overwhelmed, usually means you've taken on someone else's feelings that aren't yours. So what you can do is, okay, I'm going to give that back. All your intent alone and your free will allows you to just give that back. But you have to be aware. If you get confused and you're a person that feels or you feel overwhelmed, walk out of a room, stand alone by yourself, and wait 60 seconds. If you feel just fine, walk back in and know it's their energy and not yours. One of the other things you can do by the way as an empath is to put your hand right here when you're talking to someone. This is the gut feel. This is literally what they call the gut feel. It's one kind of intuitive intelligence, one kind. And when you put your hand there, then you do not absorb other people's feelings. When you're sitting on a couch, put a pillow in front of that portal right there, and you won't take in other people's feelings. You'll feel differently. You'll watch what's going on, but you won't feel that emotional data that's happening in the room as much. So you have to be very gentle with yourself and honor yourself when you're an empath, especially in this time, in this day and age. So I just want to say that. And then finally, there's claircognizance. That's just knowing the truth. That comes through the heart, that you absolutely know, and you know what's best, and no one's going to shake it from you. No one can shake it from you. So I wanted to do a meditation with you if you're up for it, but this one is to help you with grounding in a very particular way, to help you with healthy boundaries. So if you're an empath, that helps. And also to see if we can find someplace inside of you that where there's wisdom underneath, where there might be some resistance, and you can capture the wisdom underneath that. And maybe it's something that'll help you with your creative purpose, or maybe optimal decision making. But before I get all into that, I know that that was a lot that I covered in a short amount of time. So I'm going to ask if there's any questions. And maybe if you've had any intuitive experiences or people come to me and they say, you'll think I'm crazy. And I said, have you met me? No, nothing that you say to me will make me think you're crazy. You have no idea what my life has been like. So if anybody has a question, there's no crazy questions. Or you've had an experience you want to talk about. Yeah.
How can you read other people? I mean, I guess I have a teen and he has 16 ages, but sometimes it feels like that empath thing. Like, she's good, and then out of nowhere, after talking to someone, or like, I think she does take on their anger or their sensitivity. She's very intuitive. How do you help someone like that?
Most of the kids now. I have a whole course for empaths. I teach intuitive intelligence. I teach reading and healing in the quantum field. and I teach it to people who are professionals in their careers, but also, I haven't taught it to kids yet, but here's how I work with kids. The parents call in and give me the kid's name. And that's all I need, and I can see everything. I can actually move some information there, but it's there to help the parents understand the child differently. So one of the things is you always tell your child, you have a gift. You never say what's wrong with you, stop behaving that way. You start with, you have a gift. And what we want to do is learn how to support that gift and support you in learning about your gift and being responsible for it. Of course, depending on how old they are. and it's really helpful if you know a little bit about this, but basically with empaths, grounding and boundaries. The kids that I'm starting to work with now, it feels like they're born without skin, and they feel other people's feelings before they even know where they are. And they're just boundless, right? So some of the work I do is helping them both to do the healing work I do with them, but then also to give them instructions. And I'm going to give you that exercise. Here's what it feels like when you ground. Here's what it feels like when you have healthy boundaries. And it's all energetic exercises. These kids do better with homeopathy, flower essences, cranial sacral therapy, anything that revolves around energy work than they do with medication. Why? Because medication is there to tamp down their awareness of all the stimuli coming at them, which does not help them grow, and that can never help them develop. But it may help them to bridge someplace where they need to be calm enough to do something. At some point we'll have another conversation about systems and how any bunch of sane adults could create learning environments where kids have to be drugged to learn. Just the concept of it alone is a little mind-boggling. As the parents say, well, my child doesn't take drugs in the summer because they're playing, but when in the winter, then they start going to school, they take drugs. I'm like, what kind of adults would create a system where kids have to get drugged to learn? We're talking about systems problems here. We're not talking about kid problems. The kids are fine. They're evolving into greater sensitivity, and they have to learn how to support their sensitivities. We have to learn how to support them in learning that, and then we have to find another paradigm for developing their gifts. So, grounding, boundaries. And also, I tell kids that are this sensitive, sometimes I say, my daughter, I adopted my daughter from China. She's also very sensitive. And I remember she picks up people's feelings all the time. I say, okay, how does that feel to you? Where is it located in your body? Like if it could be located in your heart, in your stomach. Say hello to that, and then send it back to the person who it belongs to with love. So they'll get better. Because what happens with empaths a lot is that they don't just feel other people's feelings, we take them on, like flypaper. And I can see that energetically. Somebody comes in and they're walking in with, these are the people I care about. And here's what happens. When you take on other people's energies that aren't yours, you're going to gain weight you can't lose because it's not your energy. It's going to interfere with your decision making because you're going to be a little bit cloudier because that's their information and not yours running around in your energy field. And you won't maybe not be able to sleep because, again, their energy is running around your field. So there's a few ways you can say, oh, I might be taking on other people's energy. The most important thing to know about how to deal with that is to believe in your power of your free will to make a choice that you have an entitlement to your ground and an entitlement to your boundary. And when you say to anybody else's energy, you need to leave, that you trust that authority in yourself, that's your free will working. When you think, well, I can't help it. I used to have these things. I actually went to a class once and I was squirming around. Teacher said, what's going on with you? And I said, well, I feel this energy and it's kind of like here and I don't know. She goes, well, you could do that or you could just say no. I was like, I can? Who knew that I had free will? I didn't know. I didn't know what to do with all this energy. And so many people are in that situation where they're dealing with energy that they don't understand and it's making them hyperactive or depressed. And so this is two responses when you're very sensitive. You can either go hyperactive or you can go depressed, which is let me find sex, drugs, rock and roll, vaping, whatever, to cover up all this stimuli because I can't process it. And this is an intelligent strategy for emotional survival that they're doing. That's not something wrong when you have a habit. What you're doing is trying to survive invisible stimuli that is influencing you and impacting you. You're trying to help yourself survive. So we don't judge the strategies for emotional survival. What we do is help people understand this is a gift. It comes from this belly area. It is about emotions of others. And when you decide, this is my ground, I'm entitled to it, this is my boundary. And by the way, for about 4,000 years, intuitives have seen this boundary exactly the same way, about 2 feet out from around you. There's Carillion photography that can show you this. So it's not like a woo-woo idea. It's actually, they have a lot of proof about this, or at least evidence of it. And so 2 feet around you is all your energy. And so you are constantly broadcasting, this is what I want. This is how I want it. This is who I want. And of course, as you all know, and you've heard from these other talks, this is what I don't want. That'll show up. This is what I don't want. That'll show up bigger. Because you're just saying this because the brain doesn't understand the word not. So anytime you say, I don't want this or I'm not doing that, the brain will interpret it as, I want that. So that's why you have to be really clear about what we just heard, which is select what matters to you, right? Select what matters to you and focus on that alone. Keep the distractions out. Empaths care about how people feel. If you're a person that cares a lot about people, like everybody cares about how people feel, most people, not all people. But if you really, really, really care, know that it's very respectful not to take on their feelings. So here's a little trick. Empaths will say, oh, you're going through such a hard time. I'm so sorry. What can I do for you? How can I help? What can I do? Okay, that's A. Here's B. Wow, you are going through such a hard time. I am so, so sorry. You know what? I have seen you go through hard times before, and I have been inspired by the way that you did it. And you know, I believe in you, and I know you have the courage to do this. I really believe you're going to get through this. And if you want to talk about that with me, I'm right here. Got that? That's B. A, you just took on all their energy like it was yours. You took their problems on like it was yours. You're going to solve them with them like it's yours. Now you're going to get sick in your stomach. You're going to have nausea. You're going to have colon problems. You're going to have stomach problems. That comes because you're an empath. If you do B, which is to say, if I can feel your feelings, I can help you clarify those and empower you. How am I going to empower you? I'm going to hold up a mirror to your power. I know you can do this. I mean, with my daughter, when it got really bad, I would say, I'm going to hold your dreams for you while you work through this. I'm going to help you, but I'm not going to take it on, but I'm going to hold your dreams so that they don't go away while you're working through this. And when you're done with this, you're going to come with those dreams and you're going to be even stronger, right? Because you're always, as an empath, wanting to empower people, to remind them of their power, and that is your power. That is your power to empower, is to remind them of their power. I think I said that way too many times, but okay, got it. So these are a few of the exercises, and we'll do this exercise to see if it works for you. The most important thing to know is that your fears are is part of your creative purpose. To anticipate that when you face a fear, you're actually going to get a gift. Does that make you any more anxious to go on the journey towards your fear? It might not, but it's one way to talk to yourself about it because it's true, just like Nelson Mandela. I don't think he would have ever wanted to be in a grave with a guy doing that, but that's how he learned what he learned to teach the rest of us, because that was his commitment to purpose, to be that big. He got to affect a whole nation because the quality of what he was doing and the bravery it took to do it was just that big. So we have to commit to ourselves to be brave about our journeys and to choose that if this is happening right now, and you know a lot of times when I get into dark places, I just keep saying, this too will make me stronger in love. This too will make me stronger in love. Whatever's going on there that I don't like, that I absolutely have a hard time with, and I'm an empath, so I'm going to go, feelings right away. We were talking about, who is it, was talking about bringing our emotions back in. Well, I'm not very good at that, but I am very good at knowing that I'm not good at it. The first step is knowing you have a problem in order to solve it. So it's really about how do you befriend your feelings, even the ones you're most uncomfortable with. And again, thank you for your slide on be with the discomfort, because that's exactly what this is about. And we're going to do this. It's most important to befriend your body. And a lot of people who are empathic, some people, they go out of their body because it's too threatening. They feel too scared to be even hanging out here. And some people have been abused or physically assaulted, and they will be not comfortable in their body. But when they're out of their body, they feel less safe. Because as human beings, we need to be in our body to feel safe. So there's a conundrum, but even working through that is part of the creative purpose that person has the opportunity to explore and to conquer and to share with others. Not, and I say conquer, pull that map on fears and turn it on its head and find the jewels underneath it and then pull it towards yourself, and then you are the unique person that can teach others about that, right? So fear is also located in the body, right? Your body is your walking, talking unconscious. Now, if you have a pain in your shoulder, you can just do this intuitively. Let's see, I have a pain in my shoulder. Am I shouldering responsibilities for others? You know, I have a stomachache. Do I have other people's feelings that I'm really worried about them? And maybe people even say these words, and at least in English, it's I really feel for you. If you say the words I feel for you, that's not always a happy thing. If you feel for someone else, you're actually taking their energy in, and you cannot process their energy. You're only meant to process your own. Give it back, remind them of their power, and clear your field. Why? Here's really, for you empaths, here's a big tip. When you clear other people's energy out of your belly, you have that energy available for creativity, connection, financial gain, and it's not crowded by other people's information. So this particular gift, this intuitive intelligence, operates like the liver. You know, the liver is a regenerative organ. And if we throw toxins at it all the time, it becomes an arbiter of toxins. That's all it can do. When we clear out, we become vegan, and we clear out our livers, the livers will start to regenerate your organs. That's why you'll go to these places, and I've been to places that's, one of them is called Optimum Health Institute, and they just serve green all week long, green stuff, organic green stuff. And you see there are 85-year-olds there that don't wear glasses because their liver's so clean, the liver's been regenerating their eyes. They can see fine. So the second chakra is the same way. If you stop throwing other people's energies at them, usually they're toxic because, by the way, if you're empathic, you're going to feel people's denied feelings. While they'll say, and you'll say to them, oh, you're angry. They'll go, I'm not angry. They go, you're crazy. You're like, no, I'm not crazy. I have a gift. You're just angry and you don't admit it. But you don't say that to them. I'm just saying. When you have a gift of empathy, you're going to feel into a room and you're going to feel people's feelings that they don't want to feel. That's the hard part of it. Because then when you're going to go try to validate that, you're not going to get validation. That's why you have to validate yourself. And it might be they're not ready to do it. Maybe that's not how they're feeling it. Doesn't matter. You just check it out. You take it back. Let it go. Your job is, if you can feel the feelings, you move them out of your field. And I tell a lot of people, if you can feel those feelings, and you have any kind of spiritual tradition, send them into spirit. You know first, before anybody else, what they're feeling. Use your power. Because there's no question, quantum physics and all of the science that goes with this says that you have the power to affect change non-locally by your intentions and by your thoughts. This is not an idea, this is science, right? The biology of belief, there's all kinds of science to the epigenetics, your belief system is what's running your show. So, do what you can to release those energies. And so, in the morning and at night, thank you for a full and clear energy, sending people's energy back to where it came from in the light or back in love, and send them 1,000 blessings while you're at it because you're just that powerful. You have the opportunity to make that kind of difference in someone's life. All you have to do is intend it all day long, all day long, all day long. What do you want to focus on? Blessing. Why not? You're just that powerful. So just a few of those. Thank you for that question with a very long-winded answer. Is there anybody else that has any questions about what you've seen in your family or what you've experienced or what other people have experienced? I work with people from, yeah. Is there oh, thank you. I know where it went. You have a lovely, soft voice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So sometimes I feel like as an empath, you want to get into their feelings in order to be able to uplift. And retract at the same time. Both are required, but the key is understanding when to step in and when to pull out, right?
Yeah. Thank you. That's a really important question for empaths. And it took me 30 years to learn this, so I can actually lean into a field, feel exactly what someone else is feeling so that I know how to work with it, and then I move out, right? So I do use that gift to lean in to understand. And by the way, feelings are very specific. If I go into if I lean into somebody's energy and I feel the word disappointment, or I feel that they're disappointed, and I say the word disappointment, but what they really are is upset, but not disappointed. Nothing happens in their energy field. But when I say upset, and that's the key that started their fear. When people have fear, they contract their energy. So when I'm looking at an energy field, I'm looking at what's contracted and what's light. And wherever there's contraction, that's just fear. So what's under that fear, is the treasure. That's what we want to unlock. So when I'm looking at a field, I want to know what is it that they're afraid of, and then I can look at it and see it from other intuitive intelligences. But anytime you're dealing with anyone, especially empaths, especially someone you really love or you really want to help, lean in, feel what they feel, and then give it back to them and say to yourself, how can I help? And lean towards empowering them, like, I really feel that you're sad. Can I check that out with you? Is that how you're feeling? Because some people don't know how they feel. Most of us with social media and everything else don't know how we feel. And empaths usually know how other people feel, but not how we feel ourselves, right? Because it's so full of other people's feelings, we have no idea how we feel. I say, I think I feel. That means I have no idea how I feel. I can't feel, but I can feel your feelings accurately. So again, the intention to send back love with their feelings, and even ask, if you're a spiritual person, how can I help for the highest good with this person? But and it's a practice. The other thing you can do is, if you're a person that reacts to someone's needs, let's say somebody is like, I need you. And you're like, okay. Like your body just goes right to, well, what can I do? What can I do? You need me. So whenever someone has a job for you or they need you, you could take 2 physical steps back, close your eyes, and say, how do I feel about this? And is this for the highest good that I answer this call? Now, it does not matter if you get an answer to that. What's happened is that the synapses in your brain have created a pathway that whenever someone has a need, you lean in because you can feel the feeling. And by the way, that's not always altruistic, because if you fix their feeling, then you don't feel so bad, right? So really fixing my feeling because I can feel your feeling. It's not nice. But let's say that it really is altruistic. You want to help them. Feeling. I lost my train of thought there. You were talking about. Ask your question again. How do you lean in, and how do you not take it on? So reflecting back that they're powerful enough to work through what they created to learn. See, the way I see it, energetically, thousands of readings, is that everybody's setting up lessons so they can learn about love through particular lenses. And if you fix that for them, they're going to go create it somewhere else because you didn't help them. Because they set it up to learn themselves. So they're going to create it somewhere else. Did you ever see that? You help someone, you help them, you go like, wait a minute, I helped them with that. Why is that mess happening over there again? That's because they came to learn that lesson. They didn't come for you to fix it. But if you can keep sending back that message, I believe in you. I know you have it in you to fix this. I know you can. Then you've helped them. Because they're going to remember, this is like a tuning fork. I feel like I'm not powerful. I feel like I'm having this terrible time. Well, I'm a tuning fork going, oh, yes, you are powerful. Oh, yes, you can. And that part of you is going to step up. This is actually, I did sound healing once, and they had a physician, and his blood pressure, they showed, was very low. And they took a sound, and they put it into his field for 20 minutes. His blood pressure went right up. I've been in experiments where they've measured the sound of my voice and what notes are missing or low. Then they put it into my field at that level. Boom, those functions in my body related to those sounds come up. So it could be liver, it could be blood pressure, it could be anything. So we act as tuning forks to other people when we reflect back their power to them, when we remind them that they have the power to do whatever it is that's in front of them, and that we will be right here walking the path with them as a sacred witness, as opposed to solving their problem. And guess what? Then you start to create greater synchronicity. When other people's feelings aren't in your belly, you're sending out a signal, this is what I want, and I'm not crowding it up with other people's opinions, and this is a connective function here. It will go out, and the next day someone will call you and say, gee, I was just thinking about, this, and you're saying, I was just thinking about that yesterday, it's exactly what I need. That starts happening when you let go of other people's feelings and the need to take care of them that way. Take care of them other ways. Was that responsive to your question?
Yeah, so take care of them. Basically, it's there at the back of your mind till you feel that there is some resolution. You have actually fixed them or helped
Well,
them.
I think asking questions is really powerful.
Uh,
What questions can you ask someone else that gets their imagination going about how to reframe what they're faced with?
or how to overcome their own fears, like you said, right?
How to overcome their fears. Well, and also you can say, always go, when you have a judgment about something or you're getting really close, move to curiosity. In your brain, curiosity will stop you from judgment and help you get into learning and help the other person get into learning too. Curiosity and questions flip the conversation and the possibility that you can come up with absolutely new possibilities to address the problem. And by the way, I'm sorry I didn't finish here's the exercise. Take 2 steps back, close your eyes, ask yourself, how do I feel? And is this for the highest good? And you may not know how you feel, but what happens is the synapses in your brain that default taking care of people by taking on their feelings will have to stop. They'll be interrupted. That's a disruption of the neural pathways. And because the brain will ask the question, what do you mean, how do I feel? I don't know how I feel. Like, what a strange question. And then it will have to go on a journey to figure out what that means. So you keep asking the question, and you keep asking the question, and your brain will lead you to a place where you begin to feel your feelings. Because that's how it works. Neural pathways. It's really interesting, isn't it? How we program ourselves for this. Any other questions or experiences? Yeah.
So going back to purpose, do you have any thoughts about near-death experience and purpose?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have thoughts about anything, so I'm sorry about that. So
That's
if
what
you
I
ask
love
a
about
question,
you.
even if it's not a quality answer, you'll get an answer. And by the way, 10 brothers and sisters, do you know how many times I did not get the stage? This is therapy. Okay, for me. Yeah, near-death experiences. Near-death experiences are often game changers for people, and people have game-changing ways to game change a lot of different ways. It could be that you have a venture capitalist that becomes your mentor, and it changes your life. It could be that someone in your family passes away, and it brings your consciousness to a different way of thinking about life, and it goes on like that forever. You really change. And sometimes near-death experiences will do that too. And I'll give you the story of, I talked to this guy named, his last name is Brinkley. I'm trying to remember his first name. It's been a while. He was struck by lightning and died and came back 4 times. The chances of that are like 1 in a trillion or something. I'm like, what have you been up to on the other side? Anyway, he did go to the other side, and he found out that he was a CIA agent, and he was involved in people dying, like killing people back and forth. And he knew all that, but of course it was secret. He was CIA. He went to the other side, and he found out that on the other side, he gets to relive everything he ever did on this side. He did it more than once. That's why today, if you ever meet this guy, he will hug you, no matter what. Every time. He hugs everyone and anyone, because we said, when I get to the other side, I'm just going to feel those hugs. So, but everybody has a different reason, but usually it's a game changer. And people learn at such an amazing level. Now, I've worked with people who have died and come back, and what happens for them is the veil between this world and the next gets a little lifted. So, for example, one woman came to me because after she died on the table for, I think it was a few minutes, she actually had a premonition she was going to die on the table and asked the doctor to get more pints of blood in there, and he did, but she did die. When she came back, she was, right after she recovered, she was in a dinner with her husband and these 2 people that were his colleagues. And in the middle of dinner, she started, no, one of his colleagues, and in the middle of dinner, she starts feeling like she's having a heart attack. And she starts going down for the count and struggles and finally recovers, only to find out that that woman's husband was having a heart attack at that moment in the house. Because the veil between the worlds is lifted when you go to the other side. You come back with a little less veil between the worlds. So I help people come back into their bodies, and I train them in how to reclaim that. But at the same time, she's teaching doctors all over the world now how to trust their patients' intuition. There's her purpose, right? You get your pain, you get your purpose. You get your fear, you address it, you get to share it. It's a privilege, right? But that's how it occurred for her. So there's, at this point, I talked to a publisher who said, at this point, people have to, what did he say? You have to ask if people, anybody who really doesn't believe that there's like life on the other side or whatever. He said he's published several hundred books on near-death experiences. So, and there's a guy I was interviewed by Dr. Oz when he wasn't the same guy we know now, and he had his own little radio show. And before me was a guy named Jim Tucker, and he worked with a study. He was a professor at NNMD, and he worked on a study, 2,500 kids under the age of 5 who remembered their other lifetimes and could accurately give enough evidence that they could prove that those kids were true, what he was saying was true. So he's published all of these books and said, if people don't believe in past lives, if they don't believe in the other side, I don't know why. Because there's so much evidence right now and all of them have a different story to tell. So some people are there for their creative purpose. Some people are there to wake them up. Some people, they come back and they're in service in a way that they never fear death again. And they're in service in ways that are profound. So, and they're also usually come back with the kind of gifts I have, that they're, see through the realms. That sounds a little odd, but quantum physics says that particle physics in quantum physics has mathematically proven that there's 7 simultaneous realities going on in front of us right now. That's not string theory, which believes that everything's connected. It's particle physics. So when someone has a wide open third eye like these kids, they're seeing interdimensional realities that are simultaneous, and they're trying to process them, and they don't have any map of reality that helps them do that. That's why I help those people, because I'm an interdimensional boundary walker myself. So this is all about when we get more sensitive, we have to get more powerful at understanding the gifts we have, how to access them, how to partner with our bodies as good partners to find the map of reality, to uncover our fears, to turn them into strengths, and to advance our creative purpose. Make sense? Thank you. Okay, so I would love if you would like to join me in this exercise. All right, I'm going to teach you a really unique way to ground. So you claim your ground. By the way, if you're grounded, you're going to feel safer, more secure. If you're in a negotiation for work, you're going to feel much more clear about your place and your entitlement to it, and then your boundary, so that even again, if you're in a negotiation and somebody, listen, people can see that, and I hate to say this, but 87% of rape victims, according to the statistics, have been incested when they were younger, because they never got the chance to understand their boundary and say no, and they don't know that they can. When you don't know that you have no and a yes, it's permission from someone else to override your boundaries. And we don't have time to do this, but I would do this. I've done this in audiences of 500. You have a person up here who, how many of you know muscle testing, kinesiology? This is, like this. You find out how strong your immune system is. Okay, so I have a person up here, and this person who's up here doesn't know what I'm doing back there. But I've told the audience to, when I put my finger up, 1, think negative thoughts, 2, think positive thoughts about this person. Person puts their hand up, we do a baseline. I'm not doing it, someone else is that hasn't done this before. And everybody in the audience, 500 people, I go like this, they think negative thoughts. I go, well, let's test that again. Boom. Person's arm goes down like that. Because 500 people are thinking negative thoughts of a person. Their immune system goes down. And they're completely unaware. So we do it again, and I go, let's try that again. And I do 2. Everybody think positive thoughts. I go, let's just try that again. Boom, strong as a rock. because everybody's thinking positive thoughts about them. Think about the people you hang out with. Okay. Second, though, the more surprising part, I put their hands up like this. I give them a piece of paper, and I say to them, just read the piece of paper and try to really feel it. And it says, I can't believe I'm up here. I'm so embarrassed. I'm such a dick. No, that's not it. I'm such a disadvantaged person up here. Of all these people are, looking at me, and I'm really embarrassed. Blah, blah, blah. So that's what, and they're reading this. And then I tell the whole audience, 500 people, think positive thoughts about them. What happens? How many people think that their hands go down? How many people think their hands go up? 500 people talking to them about like a rock. I do it again. I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I'm an expert. I'm amazing. I can't believe this. I tell 500 people think negative thoughts about them. What happens? Strong as a rock. What you think about you has more importance. Your consciousness will beat the entire 500 people if you are conscious. Your boundary matters. If you walk around unconscious and it doesn't matter, 500 people can tell you about you, and you get to feel that. That's up to you. You have free will. Take your power and use it. Use it to be conscious about your boundaries, about what you're entitled to in your grounding, in your safety, in your body, right? So, and of course, we run into a lot of things like, well, I feel safe this way, but not that way. Okay, well then let's look at that. That's part of your creative purpose. That's a wonderful resistance. Let's look at that. So I'm going to do these two things: grounding, boundaries, and then I'm going to ask you to look at a resistance inside of you, just gently, not a big. We're not going to change the whole world here, but just a little resistance to see if you can get more information about why your body might be holding that resistance, so that you can get more information for your creative purpose, okay? Everybody with me? Okay, so if you want to and you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and close your eyes. The reason we close our eyes is to just move the distraction out. That's why meditation is such a lovely practice, because when you go blind, your ears get sharper. When you go deaf, your eyes get sharper. When you close down your 5 senses, your 6th sense gets sharper. So what we want to do is close out those 5 senses, take a deep breath, and really focus inside, because that's an advantage for you. To pay attention to the invisible map of reality that lives within you. So if you would get comfortable and tune into the sensation in your body right now. What does it feel like? What's the climate? What's the general feeling inside of your body right now? And now I want you to notice what it's like to be sitting on the chair you're on, and sink into that support. You can move back into the support behind you. You can move into that, sink into the chair underneath you. The support is always available to you for the asking. You may even want to press your feet a little bit on the floor to recognize that the floor is supporting you. Every time you put your foot down somewhere on the earth rises up to meet you and says, yes, I will support you every step of the way. So if you'd like to, just open the crown of your head and see if you can imagine a beautiful light, maybe from a central sun, streaming down through the crown of your head and beginning to flow through your body at a pace and a level that's most comfortable to you. And allow your breath to accompany that light, to help it a little bit, to companion it as it cascades through your body. And now as you're allowing that light to flow through your body, I want you to maybe notice that the base of your spine's getting a little bit heavy. Like there's maybe ball bearings there. It's kind of heavy. See if you can notice that sensation at the base of your spine. And if you would, allow a grounding cord, maybe a root system, to drop down from the base of your spine, through your chair, through the floor, and down into the planet towards its center. You can notice how far it easily goes, and you can invite it to go even further if it's comfortable for you. And if it's not, just honor where it is. It's okay. But if it's willing, you can allow that energy from that root system to descend all the way to the heart of Mother Earth, the center of the planet. Mother Earth is a conscious being just like you. She grows, she learns, she creates, she's evolving. If you can, see if you can anchor in that root system to her heart. And then if you will, allow gratitude and appreciation to flow down that root system all the way to her heart, thanking Mother Earth for whatever it is for you that you'd like to do, maybe feeding, clothing, and sheltering us as human beings, maybe beauty, maybe the place that she allows everyone to stand. Whatever it is for you, just send gratitude and appreciation down that cord to the center of the planet, really blessing Mother Earth. And allow your breath to accompany that root system. As you take a breath in and take the light that comes through the crown of your head, you might exhale all the way down to the heart of Mother Earth and anchor there. Notice, if you've been able to anchor there, notice what it feels like to you. What are the sensations that happen? And notice if there's any change in the sensation you had when you started and when you have now. Maybe there's a change, maybe not. Now, if you would, allow Mother Earth to send her energy back up to you with an elixir of light and energy that's meant just for your path. If you would imagine this energy coming all the way back up towards the soles of your feet, and open the bottoms of your feet, allowing her appreciation and gratitude to you for your presence and contribution on the planet to come up your feet, legs, and thighs, clearing out anything that's in the way of your walking your path with grace and flow and ease. And then with the breath out, send that energy back down to her heart, where she will recycle that, as she is so good at doing. And sending your appreciation and gratitude down to her, and allowing her to send her appreciation and gratitude back up into your feet, legs, and thighs, and keep this cycle going until you feel a sensation in your legs. You may not feel a sensation, sometimes it takes practice. But if you do, this is about engaging and activating a relationship with the planet who knows your true path and supports you every step of the way. So it's a little bit like if someone wants to bless you with kindness, so they open a door for you, and you say, oh good, it's an open door, and walk through, and you don't see the person that opened the door, and you don't feel the kindness, you still got an open door, but you missed all of that blessing. So when we activate and engage this relationship with the earth as an organic, growing relationship, we're acknowledging that door open and that kindness that's being given to us. And this will change all the time because you are growing and evolving, and so is Mother Earth. So at any given time, the experience of this exercise may change. But the point is to practice the exercise, because this will also soften your nervous system and increase your immunity. It will help you to be stronger, to be able to face whatever you're facing in life in a way that feels like you have a partner. You're entitled to this ground, and you have a partner in so doing. So you may allow, if you want, that energy to keep going around and around through your feet, legs, and thighs. And as you just allow that, if you'll return your attention to the light that's coming through the crown of your head, imagine that that energy is beginning to increase with, again, with just a flow that's comfortable for you, but maybe it gets to be a little bit more as you breathe it in, and allow it to go all the way down your arms to your fingertips and all the way to your toes. And as the light from the crown of your head fills up your body, allow it to come out your fingertips and out your toes and fill up this field 2 feet around you. This is all of your energy. This is you and your eternal self in intimacy. Allowing that connection to fill up all the way around you, below your feet, above your head, behind you, and in front of you. And notice what that's like. You can even breathe in the crown of your head, that beautiful light, and then breathe it out the back of your heart and let it go out 2 feet behind you to claim the power of the space that's yours behind you. And notice what that's like. And then breathe in the crown of your head and breathe out the front of your heart 2 feet in front of you. Claim the space in front of you that is all yours. You can do that same breathing behind your solar plexus, in front of it, and behind your belly and in front of it. Allow your breathing to be so friendly, saying hello to yourself and thanking yourself. This partnership between your energy and your body, your spirit and its expression through this unique human costume. And notice what it's like to own the power of the energy around you and the ground that you stand on or sit on. Notice if the sensation in your body is the same or different than when you started. And then imagine gravity coming as a weighted blanket around the outside of your auric field, this energy field 2 feet around you. And allow gravity itself to be a partner to make you feel more protected and safe in your own energy field. And notice what that's like. And finally, if you would focus your attention in your heart and ask anyone's feelings or energy, anyone that isn't you or yours, to move out of your field, out of your body, out of your mind, out of your emotions, out of your energy field, and into the light with love, or back where it came from with love. Following it up with 1,000 blessings if you'd like, because you're just that powerful and you can, so that it is better served, whoever or whatever that is, being away from your body than it is if it came into your field or your body. And then notice if there's a difference before you allowed that out and after you asked it to leave. And now if you have any spiritual tradition and you'd like to ask any kind of spirit to accompany you here, to be with you, to stand with you, to amplify the peace, the flow, and the grace that is available to you in every moment, and in this moment in particular, you can go ahead and do that. And breathe in the friendship that you have here. Breathe in the allies that are with you. Feel the gratitude in your heart that you have a partner on the earth that supports you. You have a partner in spirit that's always helping if you ask. that you have gravity as a partner and your own auric field. You're a team. You're here for a beautiful creative purpose that's unique to you, and you have all this support. You have all of this resource. So as you take a deep breath, when you're ready, you can come back into the room. Open your eyes. Some people are sound asleep. Anybody have any comments about that? And then we're going to end here. Just any last thoughts? Did anybody have a change from when they started to the end? Did anybody have a change inside of them that they felt different? Anybody? A little bit different from before and after? Light. So I want you to know that I can see you. I can see who you are. You're not any of your costumes, and you're all brilliant spirits of light. So I want you to know that I can see you, and when you can see you, then you have all your power. So I'm wishing you today that you have use these tools to come into your power and to hold it, and then to bring your gifts out to other people when you take advantage of those, the treasure underneath your fear. And thank you so much for your kind attention at this hour on Friday. And before I end, I know April's going to say we have one more very important person here. And I'm going to say Debbie Ferruzzi has done an amazing job. If you've ever watched the Miss America pageants or the Miss Universe pageants, and they always say, what do you want for the world? And they say, I want world peace, and you roll your eyes. This woman wants world peace, and she's really done it. She's doing it. So you want to listen to what she has to say. And it's a few minutes, but it's really important. So thanks, Debbie.